Hello everyone, Solohood here, today with what I think is going to be a pretty short video. This one is meant as a follow-up to the previous video about the Occultist Impending Doom build. So I'm not going to re-explain everything in single detail, I linked that first video in the description. If you want the full picture of the build, I really recommend watching that one as well. Here we're just talking about the update, the new tech and why I changed a few things. So very quickly let's remind ourselves how Impending Doom actually works. Impending Doom is the support we get from Forborn Scorn Helmet. It gives us a build in high level Impending Doom, and every time an X on an enemy either expires or is replaced by another X, it triggers Doom Blast, which is where our real damage comes from. In the previous version of this build, we were using the curse limit as our trigger. We had Temporal Chain in the main setup, and then 3 extra curses inside Vixen Entrapment. Since the curse limit was 3, every time we applied a 4th curse on an enemy, Temporal Chain was the one that got overridden and disappeared from the target. And that counted as X ending. So Impending Doom would go off and Doom Blast would explode. That was the old tech. In this new version, instead of using the curse limit as the trigger, we lean on Cursed Ground support linked to Temporal Chain. Cursed Ground is very simple. When you cast your curse, it's no longer attached directly to the enemy. It creates an area on the ground, and any enemy standing in that area is considered cursed by the X. So the natural first idea is, okay, we just move the cursed ground around to trigger Doom Blast, and yes, that actually works. Every time you cast the curse in a new spot, enemies technically leave one curse area and Impending Doom can trigger. But there is a second very important interaction. We don't necessarily need to move the ground, we can recast the same curse on top of the same spot. For a very short moment all curse area comes to an end and the new one is created. That tiny gap is still enough to trigger Impending Doom. So we can actually curse the ground, then curse the exact same spot again and Doom Blast will still pop. Once you understand this, it becomes clear why Temporal Chain and Cursed Ground inside our Forborn Scorn Helmet is already enough to satisfy all Impending Doom conditions we need. On top of that, we add Awaken Spell Cascade to the Temporal Chain setup, because we can only have, since we can only have one Cursed Ground area at a time, all the extra Cascade cast, like up, down, left and right, basically rotate that cursed patch of ground around the main one. So as we cast, the cursed area keeps shifting around us, constantly applying, removing and reapplying the X, and therefore re-triggering Doom Blast. Now, the big upside of this version is that we don't have to waste our curse limit as a trigger anymore, which means we can fully take advantage of the curse package. Indeed, in the Vixen Entrapment this time, instead of running a second Awaken Spell Cascade, I slotted in Assassin Mark. Even though it's tagged as a mark, it still counts as a curse for our curse limit. So when we cast the main Cursed Ground setup, on that primary area we actually applying all of the following at once. Temporal Chain from the helmet, and then Punishment, Enfeeble, Assassin Mark and the Spear socketed in the gloves. All of that stacked into a huge DPS boost on the main cursed area. To fully profit from this setup, you ideally want a curse limit of 5, because we want to apply all of them. So it's not strictly mandatory. Even with only 4 curses, the build still works perfectly fine. You just lose one of the Vixen of the curses socketed inside the Vixen, but that's the way I currently reach 5. It goes like this. We take Unholy Authority from the Occultist Ascendancy for the first +1 curses, and it also lets our curses access affect X-proof enemy, which is good. Then the other +1 come from the Vixen Entrapment Gloves. The other +1 curses from Whisper of Doom from the passive tree, and then optionally, we can use a precursor ember ring with the mod. We can apply an additional curse while at maximum number of power charges. In practice, thanks to relegation patient boots, we are always count as being at maximum number of power charges, so that ring works just perfectly. Again, don't feel forced to copy that particular setup if you only want to cap curse limit at 4. It's totally fine. Alright, now we can very quickly talk about the small changes I made on the gem link. I moved Summon Flame Column and Frost Shield linked with custom damage taken into the weapon. These are things I'm perfectly happy to have triggered only when I take a decent chunk of damage. On the other hand, I put Immortal Call, Increased Duration and Withering Step into the automation setup. Recently, I felt like Immortal Call needed to behave more like a protective defensive layer that's cycling in the background rather than a panic response that only went on when a huge hit had already landed. Before, indeed, it was linked to customer damage taken. Now automation is constantly cycling a Immortal Call. So most of the time we are taking incoming damage through most of the time we are gonna take incoming damage. Our Immortal Call defensive layer should be up, hopefully. Very quickly on the path of building side, because there are some custom modifiers I wanted to clear up. In this up-to-date version I added some custom modifier for the cooldown recovery rate. This one is simulating a corrupt graft mod that gives us percentage increased cooldown recovery rate for each green skill gem we have socketed. We have 4 green skill gem, so that's where it's coming from, the 80% increased cooldown recovery. But Path of Building doesn't natively support that mod yet, so we have to manually add this line. The other special line you'll see is your damage with it is lucky. This one is coming from the Radiant Ground, the buff created by the other graft skill in our Ash Graft. When we stand on that type of ground, our hit damage rolls twice and takes the better result, which is a nice little DPS pump for Doomblast. On the passive tree, there's also one more pure damage upgrade. I started using this Rune Graft of Time on one of the masteries. This gives us a 20% chance for skill to not consume their cooldown when used. So, the cooldown we care about there is Doomblast cooldown itself. Right now Doomblast is around 0.1 seconds, roughly. So in theory it triggers at most 10 times per second, which is the bottleneck of this build actually. With a Rune Graft of Time active, roughly 1 out of 5 casts doesn't consume the cooldown, so we effectively squeeze in extra Doomblast in the same time window. It's a nice quality of life plus damage boost without changing actually nothing in terms of playstyle. I think that actually covers all the important updates I just wanted to talk about. It really is just a short iteration on the original version. The core idea is absolutely the same playstyle. We just clean up a bit the curse logic socketing cursed ground. And we have been able to socket another curse in the gloves. Remember, you don't need the extra curse ring for the build to function. A curse limit of 4 is perfectly fine. You'll just be missing 1 curse on enemies compared to this min-max version. Alright, that's it from me for the theory part. Now we can maybe enjoy some more gameplay if I found some. Guys, thanks a lot for watching. Let me know in the comments if you see any cool ways to push this setup even further, or if you have any question about this version. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one.